Hello, good afternoon, colleagues. Welcome. Bienvenue. Tfaddalo, marhaba, and all of the other languages that I do not speak, I apologize, observed. So welcome to today's fourth celebration of the International Day for the Awareness of Food Loss and Waste. We have a really packed agenda. I'm going to take just a few minutes. My name is Yasmina Bouziane from FAO's Office of Communication to give you just a few housekeeping. We're being followed by some over 250, I'm told, close to 300 people on the platform already, and many others following by webcast on FAO.org. You have simultaneous interpretation in the 6 official languages. For those of you in the room, you have little ear sets underneath your tables. And for those of you following on the platform, you can click on the bottom of the, I think it's probably about here, the bar, and you should be able to have the interpretation. And on webcast, you have the floor or the language that you would like. For those of you who are into various hashtags, today's hashtag is FLW Day, Food Loss and Waste Day. We also have a number of colleagues who are following all of your questions. Please use the chat. They're upstairs in their offices with all of their data around them and can answer all of the questions that you need. So let us go ahead and start on this fourth observation of the International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste, which is jointly led by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations and the United Nations Environment Program. Indeed, we are leading, but we have many partners, and many partners are here with us today. Other Rome-based agency sisters or brothers and sisters, as well as our very, very, very dear partner of the Holy See, as well as a number of members and countries who are partnering in the awareness and also the solutions to food loss and waste. And we'll have some with us today, 2 Goodwill ambassadors from FAO and from UNEP. So I'm not going to take much more of your time. Our experts are going to tell us what it means to have 13.2% of the food we produce lost, and a further 17% of our food ends up being wasted. You're not going to hear it from me. You're going to hear it from everybody on the dais and a lot more. But perhaps what we could do right now is take a quick look at a video that was produced to be able to tell us what the challenges surrounding food loss and waste are, and particularly, hopefully, we will hear about the solutions that we can all implement, each and every one of us, and the larger partnership. So I'm going to ask that the colleagues up in the room play the curtain raiser.
Our agri-food systems form the backbone of many economies, producing a wide variety of food essential to nourish everyone in the world. Across the globe, many millions of people suffer from various forms of malnutrition. Over 3.1 billion cannot afford a healthy diet, and food insecurity persists. Did you know that 13% of food produced is lost after harvest and before it reaches store shelves? While a staggering further 17% is wasted in our homes, supermarkets, and while eating out. Each one of us wastes an average of an incredible 74 kilograms of food every year. When food is lost and wasted, production resources are lost, greenhouse gas emissions are generated, and our ecosystems and biodiversity are threatened. Our common take, make, use, and discard approach to food is not desirable or sustainable. We have to do things differently. We have to focus on preventing and reducing food losses and shift our attitudes and behaviors away from wasting food. We must establish systems for measuring, monitoring, and reporting on food loss and waste, and engage with new sources of data to advance sustainable benefits. Shifting to circular agri-food systems that maximize the use of food for human consumption and keeping it out of landfills will increase efficiency, drive innovation, and benefit our environment, economies, and societies, while protecting biodiversity. This shift requires the joint efforts of stakeholders from across several sectors. We can achieve our Sustainable Development Goal of halving global food waste by 2030 and reducing food losses by at least 25%. And in the process, we can all contribute to the transformation of our agri-food systems, nourishing people and improving the health of our planet. Let's work together to reduce food loss and waste toward transforming our agri-food systems for the people, for the planet.
So thank you for that, and quite some staggering figures. I don't know if anybody picked up the one that each individual wastes 74 kilograms of food in a year. That's me, at the risk of telling you my weight, that's me plus a child, 17 kilos. That's a lot in one person. So we each can do something. So, but now, for our very, very, very dear pleasure, we have a message from His Holiness Pope Francis on food loss and waste. It is one of his many issues that he's brought up, and we have the luxury of having with us Monsignor Fernando Chica, who is the permanent representation of the Holy See to the United Nations and here in Rome, and he will give us His Holiness' message.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is an honor for me to read out the message that His Holy Father, Pope Francis, sent to the Director General of FAO in celebration of the International Day of Food Loss and Waste Awareness 2023. The message reads as follows. His Excellency Dr. Chu Dong-yu, Director General of FAO. Excellency, thank you for giving me the opportunity to address and cordially greet everyone who's taking part in this event as we celebrate this International Day. The poor on this planet are picking out of the garbage the waste that others throw away. And those of us here continue to waste. The world's young urge that we, once and for all, eradicate the harm that food loss and waste causes to people and our planet. They also ask that we become more aware so as to avoid the repetition of such damaging practices. However, unfortunately, the scourge of food loss and waste is just as alarming as the tragedy of hunger that afflicts humankind. These are two dramas, and I'm addressing them together because I feel they are united by a common thread. The imperialistic culture that has taken away the intrinsic value of food, reducing it to merchandise for trade. In addition to this, there is a general indifference to the poor, which has become truly palpable. This generates a truly negative impact. These attitudes, which are entrenched in human selfishness, lead to many people throwing out primary goods, while others feel indignant when faced with the fact that so many people still lack basic goods for survival. This has to do with a profit-driven society and a voracious consumption of natural resources. we must all commit to a radical paradigm shift, because we can no longer limit ourselves to looking at this through an economic lens or a wish for profit. If we wish to manage this properly, we must behave ethically. When we refer to food, we must bear in mind the fact that we are all entitled to a dignified life. Therefore, we must respect the sacred rights of each individual, which is recognized by many traditions, cultures, and religions. Let's not forget this. Food is life and can never be considered a problem. Indeed, each individual's existence should drive us to improve our daily work. Therefore, we cannot continue to allude to the global population growth as the cause for the planet's inability to feed everyone adequately, because actually the real reason underlying the proliferation of hunger in the world lies in the lack of a concrete political will to redistribute the goods on this planet so that everyone can benefit from what nature gifts us with, and the deplorable destruction of food with a view to economic interests. Food waste is one of the worst ways of generating garbage and shows an arrogant disregard for everything to do with food production. Throwing away food is equivalent to not attaching importance or value to the work, the transportation, and the energy costs used to take quality food to our tables. It's equivalent to disdain for all those who work on a daily basis in this sector to provide us with food that, once it is lost or wasted, did not reach their laudable end use. How can we end this? In order to achieve this noble goal, we must invest financial resources, pool efforts, and go from mere statements to forward-looking decision-making and incisive decisions. Above all, we must all own the belief that wasted food is an affront to the poor. A sense of justice toward the disenfranchised should lead us all to a deep shift in our mentality and behavior. We must recognize, and I would like to highlight this, says the Pope, that the food that we throw in the bin is inequitably taken away from the hands of those who need it most. Those who have the right to food every day. St. Paul was very clear on this. It's not about alleviating others by tightening our belt. It's about equality. Abundance, on the one hand, should be equivalent to distribution to others. We must also revive the belief within ourselves that we all belong to a single human family. Those who go to bed hungry are our sisters and brothers. Sharing what we have with them is an imperative, both in terms of justice, but also in terms of the fraternal solidarity that stems from family relations. Director General, while I ask God that the family of nations be a true family again, that we feel love and harmonious coexistence, I would truly like to thank the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations for all the initiatives and programs that it carries out to end food loss and waste. May the Almighty God bless your work for the benefit of all humankind. Vatican City, 29th of September 2023, Pope Francis.
Thank you very much, Monsignor Chica, for those absolutely wonderful words and strikingly tough words also from His Holiness about how we all have a responsibility for the entire oneness of the population and humanity to do our best for this issue of food loss and waste, along with a number where food is at the core of who we are as societies from around the world, regardless of religion. Very important. Thank you very much. With this, I would like to turn the floor over to our host, Dr. Chu Dong-yu, Director General of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO. Thank you for having us and for having this day. The floor is yours.
Okay. Excellencies, ladies, gentlemen, dear colleagues, good afternoon from Rome. Welcome to this year's International Day of the Awareness of Food Loss and Waste. With the theme, Reducing Food Loss and Waste, take action to transform agri-food systems. Our agri-food system today apply the linear take, make, use, discard operation model that needed to be urgently changed. The global agri-food system must be transformed to be more efficient, more inclusive, more resilient, and more sustainable to ensure the food security and accessible healthy diets for all. Currently, more than 13% of food produced globally is lost throughout the supply chain from the harvest to before retail. And further, 17% is wasted at the household level in food service and in retail. 735 million people faced hunger in 2022, and many millions of people across the world are malnourished. The world is off course to achieve the most of the globally agreed nutrition target. Healthy diets are an essential part of addressing this issue, yet more than 3.1 billion people were unable to afford the health diets in 2021. Reduce food loss and waste represent a triple win opportunities with immediate positive impact on food security, climate benefit, and increased availability of nutritious food, while improving the overall sustainability of agri-food systems. Reducing food loss and waste will minimize the pressure on our natural resources, decrease greenhouse gas emission, mitigate climate change, and help to preserve our biodiversity. It is a win-win for people and for the planet. I think all those talk points I've repeated 3 times already, or more, even more 3 times. But why it's not changing so much what we expect? I don't think most people, they understand the cause or root cause or impact. No. Most of them knew. Why did it change? We are not as professors or missionaries to speak every time or repeat every time again. What is the real action, action point? If we, all the colleagues, especially from the relevant divisions and office, we have to think some small action lead a big change, a big impact. Let's say, what is the first thing we should change to food waste, food loss? Food loss on the field, food waste on the table. How to speed up the process to reduce the loss and waste on the table, on the field, in the field. So please find a logic entry point to lead the change. Otherwise, Maximo, every year you prepare the talk point for me, I repeat the same, it's become the annual lecture. I don't like it. I don't like to celebrate it like way. I appreciate the other celebration like the mountains and others. You are leading the innovation labs. We have to change in the innovative way. Each time I sit here, I say what I haven't told you last year. I check. Yeah, maybe you forgot. I check my talk point. So please, small things. That's why I remember 4 years ago I put the reminder signal in the cafeteria. Yeah? If someone have not reached zero waste, there will be the record. And then everyone are more cautious. So we have to think of some things a little bit deeper, not running the business as usual. I remember last time also I had the same with international planned One Health. That's a typical, you always say not running business as usual. That is always as usual. Any best. So please, please, the next year if you still doing like that, I will not come, for sure. Yeah, that's maybe last day chance for you to ask environment to read the textbook. Yeah. To unlock the potential, the maximum the value of agri-food systems, we must shift from our current linear model of operational, because a lot of talk about they pretend to be, they convince people they didn't know. I know majority they knew, but how to have them to change the business? That's always I really, encourage you. First, prevent the reduce food loss waste at the source. In production, handling, process, package, and how. Yeah. We already described some area we should do, or we should ask some other people to do. Yeah? But how? What is the package solution? Second, reskill, recover, redistribute, surplus. I think it's many years ago I had this time I was in New York, as Fortune City, the New York office director of the UN Habitat. They had a very good program together with UNEP and the FAO in New York. They work with the New York municipal government. And he said the local government have very much enjoyed the cooperation between FAO and the UN Habitat. So there are a lot of good examples, experience from our field, our office. But headquarters, we have to learn it from that. Yeah? There are a lot of fresh experience. Because I was informed by the director of office in New York from the UN Habitat. Just last week when we were there. So the third, recycle, upcycle, and for this reason, today we are launching the food loss app. Yes, it's some small step. I appreciate apps. Yeah, and also what is last year? I remember I was in Austria. I visited also some companies that are doing very well before the expiration of the date of food, and they donate or processed. So there are a lot of actions we needed to learn from them. And in short, what is the real role of the FAO here, or together with the UAEP? To launch I still expect the Dutch government, and used to have close cooperation with Rabobank, I think, on the food waste issues. How to mapping food waste in the hotspots, not only in Europe, in America, big cities, in some Arabic countries, even in Africa or in Asia. If some city willing to be mapped, how much is the waste during the fiesta, during the celebration. I said today is it's a mooncake Mid-Autumn Festival for Chinese culture, the Chinese community. We are really concerned several years ago, 10 years ago, about the waste of the mooncake. They don't eat so much mooncake in the one day or 1 week. So how to reduce the mooncake waste? It was a big issue. And they take a lot of political regulations, political engagement, and advocacy, and promote how to reduce the waste. And also in the other fiesta time, it's really high time to waste food. So I think the other things, this time we had a agricultural machinery mechanization conference. Food loss on the field, you depend on the machine and how to recollect, or second collection of the harvest, especially staple food, rice, wheat. So we have designed specific guidelines and the small actions work together with the members. And last but not least, I think how to get the public awareness. Public awareness, not the repeated system, how important, how scarcity, how the net impact. No. Public awareness through their economic gain. If they save the quart, let's say globally 74 kg per capita, that's the minimum or average quart. If we reduce 1 kilo, I give you 1 yuan or $1 bonus or incentive. And then we can send an MOU with the robber bank or other financial institutions willing to take the social responsibility, or private sectors. So for instance, if I can reduce only 30 kilo waste per year and then I got this 44 kg quart, and then I got the $44 return, and then donated to the some fund for environment, for children, nutrition improvement, or even school meal program. So please think, just jump out of the box. Otherwise, you every year repeat the same numbers. So thank you. Let's walk the talk, think a little bit deeper with a concrete proposal and action plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Director General. We've heard you loud and clear. To begin with, the triple win opportunity when we're talking about reducing food loss and waste. Win-win for the planet and people, and actions that we can each take, each and every one of us, and as a global community. So with that, together we have been working FAO and UNEP, United Nations Environment Program. And with that, our partner, and we've heard from Director General, a very fruitful partnership and collaboration. I would like to invite Ms. Elizabeth Mrema, who is the Deputy Executive Director of the United Nations Environment Program, who's joining us virtually. You will see her up on the screen. Thank you very much, Ms. Mrema, for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. DG has already said it all. I'm not sure what I can add, but let me begin first by thanking our dear colleagues at the Food and Agriculture Organization, first for hosting this event on the 4th International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste, an issue that strikes at the heart of many challenges the world faces. Just last week, the nations of the world gathered at the UN General Assembly and the 2023 SDG Summit. Though these nations committed to taking renewed and urgent action for people and planet in pursuit of sustainable development. This urgent action is sorely needed. Progress on individual goals is either crawling or reversing. Millions of people have fallen into poverty. Hunger and malnutrition have risen. Climate change is growing more ferocious by the year. Nature, the basis of our health and prosperity, is being beaten, bruised, and buffeted. Humanity is marching towards the brink of disaster. The poorest and the most vulnerable are at the front, being crowded over the edge. But nobody is safe. If humanity keeps blindly trapping in the same direction, everyone will eventually fall. But if we know one thing, it is that crisis can bring out the best in people. Their ingenuity, their drive, their desire to help others. We must all show these qualities literally now, particularly those with the power to bring change in high-impact areas such as agro-food systems. Agro-food systems are a major driver of triple planetary crisis: the crisis of climate change, the crisis of nature and biodiversity loss, and the crisis of pollution and waste. These systems belch out greenhouse gas emissions, convert virgin ecosystems, and pump too many fertilizers, pesticides, and antibiotics into nature. By driving the triple planetary crisis, agro-food systems are undermining their own ability to deliver nutritious food, livelihood, and profits. So, we need a sustainable agri-food system transition that provides healthy and nutritious food for everyone, that slows climate change and builds resilience, that enhances livelihood, and that protects the health of the people, animals, and ecosystems. Tackling food loss and waste can contribute to all these goals. And it had been said earlier on, almost 30% of the world's agricultural area is used to produce food that unfortunately is lost or wasted. All those inputs, all that nature, all those emissions, all that money, work, and sweat to produce food that feeds literally nobody. On one hand, halving food waste and reducing losses is called for in SDG target 12.3 will bring massive gains. Food security, climate mitigation, protection for nature and biodiversity, a reduced burden on water, which is crucial in a world facing growing climate disruption. Attention and action on food loss and waste is growing. For example, the connection between food waste and biodiversity loss is now recognized in the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, which also calls for halving global food waste by 2030, halving by 50%. Now we must hit the target we have set. Allow me to highlight 3 ways to do so, in addition to what the DG has already alluded to. 1, stronger consumer education and policies. Again, it has been already underscored earlier, some 17% of food is wasted at retail and consumer level, much of it in our own households. And this is not just a high-income country problem. That is why here in UN Environment Program, regional food waste working groups are assisting 25 countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America to act on food waste. And with Champions 12.3, UNEP has published a consumer guide to demonstrate how governments, cities, businesses, NGOs, and the chef community can help everyone waste less food. Food businesses can do even much more. by avoiding promotion that encourage customers to buy more food than what they need, or by using the retail environment to share solutions and not encourage customers to buy more, and by selling loose produce, which also will reduce plastic waste, contributing to global efforts to end plastic pollution. 2, better cold chain management. Lack of access to refrigeration along the food chain creates a vicious cycle of food waste and income loss, particularly in developing countries. Scaling up cold chain infrastructure powered by clean energy can ensure that products are refrigerated from harvest to plate while minimizing the climate impact. UNEP-led Cool Coalition is supporting countries on national cooling action plans with specific targets on cold chains. And UNEP here has partnered with India, for instance, on a program to accelerate investment in cold chain and is providing in-depth support to 2 states. At the same time, together with UK and FAO, we are supporting Africa Center of Excellency for Sustainable Cool and Cold Chain, which is located in Kigali, Rwanda. Thirdly, or 3, is boosting data. Countries need food waste data to create a case for action, to be able to track progress and be able to understand which interventions work. While there's even more to do, data collection is improving. We here at UNEP, our UNEP research has uncovered double the number of data points on food waste around the world. Look out for UNEP's Food Waste Index report this year, 2023, which is coming up towards the end of the year for a full update in this regard. So, dear friends, we are making progress, but we need to up our pace. On the International Day on Awareness of Food Loss and Waste, I do also call on governments, companies, institutions, individuals to align with international goals to reduce food loss and waste. Through integrating food loss and waste reduction into strategies, and through appropriate legislation, and through consumer awareness and action campaigns, and even more can be done. So reducing food loss and waste is in many ways a low-hanging fruit in the global push for sustainable development. Let us not allow it to fall on the ground and rot. We all need to take action, not just at institutional level, but even ourselves at individual level, as you, moderator, had also reminded us. And allow me to take this opportunity to send to you all, particularly DG, FAO, sincere apologies from Inga Anderson, who would have been here to speak for herself, but reasons beyond our control could not enable her to join, and she asked me to do so on our behalf. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mrema, for those words echoing. I hear same as DG, the number 3 keeps coming back, 3 things to do, 3 things, action, coming together, sharing responsibility and finding solutions, partnerships, and something that is true, that we're faced with challenges, but in challenges and crises, it brings the best out of people sometimes, and that's where we have to act. So let us bring the best out of all of us, whomever we are and whatever we represent, to come and really drive this solution. With that, I think we are going to listen to the message from the UN Deputy Secretary General, Ms. Amina Mohammed, who's also going to be telling us what we can all do collectively and the importance of reaching SDGs and this SDG 12.3.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we mark the 4th International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste, building on the momentum generated by the UN Food Systems Summit +2, stock-taking moment with ambition, integrated action and accountability. Over 100 countries are embarking on their food systems journey, recognizing the importance of accelerated and interconnected transformations to address systemic global hunger and malnutrition, while also ensuring better nutrition, economic growth, climate resilience, nature-based solutions, and reduced post-harvest losses. As the 2023 report of the State of the World's Food Security and Nutrition paints a stark picture, nearly 735 million people experienced hunger in 2022, millions across the globe are malnourished, and 3.1 million people cannot afford a healthy diet. Projections show that by 2030, approximately 600 million people will be hungry, 7% of the world's population. Our current food system needs a deep reset across all levels of society to make it work for people and for the planet. We must continue to seek innovative solutions and invest in essential infrastructure for food storage, transport, and processing. Reducing waste can generate significant economic, social, and environmental benefits, which should be incentivized and accounted for. We need profound shifts in the way we produce, handle, store, process, and consume food if we are serious in tackling food waste. This must be done with all relevant stakeholders. We need to support trade with efficient movement of food from production areas to markets. Collaboration with the WTO will be key to boosting productivity and resilience while ensuring a fair trade system that opens access to markets and provides benefits to farmers across the world. We need to invest in cost-effective, accessible, and sustainable solutions to bring about the scale-up needed for food systems transformations at all levels. We have less than 7 years to reach the target of halving food waste and reducing food losses by 25% by 2030. Let's work together to share techniques that prevent and reduce food loss and waste at all levels. Let's achieve the SDGs and transform our agri-food systems for the benefit of people and for planet. Thank you.
Quite a bit of work to be done there together, as you heard the Deputy Secretary General of the UN. 7 years to reach only half of 12.3. So there's a lot of work there. I would like to note now that we would have had the president of IFAD, President Alvaro Lario, but he had to go to catch a flight. But he has been extremely generous, and before getting in the car to go and catch a flight, has taped his message for us. So we were running a little bit long. So now we'd like to hear from him, because of course we're doing this all together, and we have our Rome-based agencies, sisters, with us. So could we have the message of the president of IFAD, please?
Dear colleagues, as we meet today, the world is grappling with numerous crises, from the ongoing effects of the war in Ukraine to the increasingly serious impacts of climate change. These crises are impeding our effort to eliminate hunger and achieve the SDGs. They are making it more difficult to make nutritious food available to those who need it most, especially the up to 783 million people currently suffering from hunger. But the food that is lost and wasted each year would be more than enough to feed every hungry person in the world. Food loss and waste also account for 8 to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions. It contributes to climate change, making it more difficult for farmers to produce food. Let me focus on food loss. Around 14% of the world's food, valued at $400 billion per year, continues to be lost after it is harvested and before it reaches markets. How can we change this reality? How can we transform a problem into a solution that would help us end hunger? First, we need to recognize the causes of food loss are different for every crop and in every country. That means we need to listen to small-scale farmers and tailor solutions to their particular needs. For example, in Rwanda, an IFAD-supported project trained farmers in the use of tarpaulins to dry their maize and hermetic bags to store it. These simple techniques reduced losses from 18% to 4%. This enabled families to save the equivalent of 2 months of additional food a year. Second, we need to invest in rural infrastructure so that farmers can get food safely and in good condition to market. IFAD invests 100 million per year in the improvement of post-harvest infrastructure to minimize food losses. These instruments are focused on rural access roads, improved storage facilities, as well as processing, cooling, and drying equipment. And third, we need to encourage the private sector investment in reducing food loss at both local and national level. For this purpose, IFAD collaborates with private banks, microfinance institutions, and the public sector to develop affordable and relevant financial instruments. Ladies and gentlemen, we must do more to deliver solutions to enable small-scale farmers to reduce food loss. We need to rally together on days like today to scale up investment and to make sure it goes where it's needed most, to the neglected rural areas. Together, we can reduce food loss and waste. Together, we can build a world free from hunger. Thank you very much.
We thank the president of IFAD for that message. And once again, I hear the number 3, tailored solutions, investments, and rallying together to really be able to find the solutions for people and planet. And again, about together, we can only do so together. And I'm going to hand over to Mr. David Catrud, who is here with us for WFP. He is the Director of Program, Humanitarian and Development Division for the World Food Program. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you, Yasmina. Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm really pleased to be here with you representing a true RBA sister in the WFP Executive Director, who sends her apologies. I'm also very pleased to be joining this broad range of engaged stakeholders as we renew our collective commitment and hopefully advance decisive action on the reduction of food loss and waste. And thanks to FAO for, in fact, convening us. This Day of Awareness offers an important opportunity to build on the momentum generated by the recent Food Systems Summit stock-taking moment, as cited by the DSG. It also builds on last week's Climate Ambition Summit convened by the Secretary General, particularly as we look forward to COP28 later this year, which all signs are will feature food systems and food security as a prominent item, possibly for the first time. Last year, I spoke to all of you, I happened to be in front of you last year as well, about the concern over adverse impacts we were seeing on food systems globally with an unfolding global food crisis at the time. Unfortunately, as we've all witnessed, we've seen these crisis conditions taking root, and they're likely to persist well into the next year. This grave reality is exacerbated by the impacts of a relentless climate crisis. As the largest humanitarian actor, WFP is keenly aware that acute hunger arising from this situation is growing well beyond the capability of all humanitarian resources, agencies, funds, and other facilities to effectively address this level of acute hunger. In this context, and from this perspective, urgent action is really needed to transform local food systems, not just as an aspiration, but now as a humanitarian imperative. Our food systems must exist in harmony with the planet, as we've heard from other speakers already, and remain resilient in the face of climate shocks to come. The reduction of food loss and waste must therefore be front and center to all our actions, because it is indeed that low-hanging fruit that we heard from UNEP. As we saw during the recent stocktake moment, we have already at our disposal many well-documented techniques, approaches, and a range of partnerships that can be mobilized to facilitate progress on this front. And our priority must now to indeed be to accelerate the mobilization and scale up, significant scale up, of these proven solutions. Additionally, we must ensure that programming is applied in a tailored and context-specific manner, echoing what you heard from the IFAD president. Accordingly, WFP has been conducting value chain analysis, and now we have a significant critical mass of these exercises, some 34 countries, in fact. And among other things, these exercises help us identify food loss hotspots and inform program design for our interventions, which we undertake with our partners, RBAs and otherwise, in any given context. Finally, I'd like to emphasize that if we are to accelerate our efforts at the pace required, we must pursue this work in a truly multi-sectoral, whole of society, whole of UN, whole of government approach at all levels. We must therefore look for opportunities to effectively leverage communities, civil society, academia, and forge public-private partnerships as a means to further the implementation of food loss prevention measures. This Day of Awareness marks an important step in our collective journey to reduce the persistent high levels of post-harvest losses and food waste. Progress in this regard, as many of the speakers have already cited, will go a long way to ensuring that our food systems are more effective, resilient, climate-friendly, and ultimately capable of providing safe, nutritious, and affordable food to all. WFP, in its role, remains committed to be an active partner in this effort. With that, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Katrude, for that. We heard you also with your 3 points of collective commitment, decisive action, and partnerships for solutions that are, of course, data-based. And as you said, acceleration, because as the Director General said, next year he doesn't want to be here and have the same narrative. We need a different narrative, and hopefully it means that we've gotten closer to reducing food loss and waste. We do have partners, and this is something that is very good. You've all called for partners, and we do have partners. So I would like to now go to the video message of His Excellency Luca Beccari, who is the Minister for Foreign Affairs, International Economic Cooperation and Telecommunications of San Marino.
Mr. FAO Director General, colleagues, it's an honor and privilege to take part today in this global event recognizing the need for awareness and for action. Let me first take this opportunity to convey to the government of Morocco and Libya my sincere condolences for the terrible event that occurred, which are a clear message that we do need to take concrete action for our planet. I would like to recognize the important role of FAO plays in our collective effort to implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its potential to contribute in cooperation with the United Nations Rome-based agency to achieving the SDGs, in particular the right to nutritious food and safe water and to sustainable food system, as well to addressing the challenges of climate change and preserving biodiversity. Reducing food loss and waste is a priority area in the FAO Strategic Framework 2022-2031 in support of the 2030 Agenda. FAO programs such as Innovate, post-harvest treatment, digital agriculture, and remodeling market channels offer huge potential to tackle the changes of food loss and waste. Through the United Nations resolution, of which San Marino and Andorra, two small states, were the main sponsor in 2018, and which was co-sponsored by 60 countries, the International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste was declared to raise awareness of significance of food access and to achieve the goal of the halving food waste by 2030. At present, almost 30% of the global population does not have access to food, and 735 million people face hunger. Hunger is not only related to lack of food. One of its consequences is also food loss and waste. 14% of food is lost in the supply chain prior to retail, and 17% is wasted in retail and consumption. Let me address water, since agriculture, livestock and food system need water, and food waste needs water. Food loss and waste are responsible for 8% of global greenhouse gas emission. Food that is lost or wasted account for 38% of total energy usage in the global food system. Water is a fundamental human right and must be accessible to everyone. We know that clean, safe, and drinkable water is not given for granted in many parts of the world. Therefore, water and food are critical means for social well-being and economic stability across the world. We are aware that food systems are the interconnection of components like nutrition, water management, marine resource, terrestrial ecosystem, food access, food prices, and cultural heritage. Therefore, action to be taken are interlinked. They must be targeted and effective so not to have any unplanned negative side effect. National strategies need to be implemented through domestic programs at all levels, including in the public and the private sector. We all know that this is still not an easy task. As policymakers, we must take the lead at a time when 820 million children, women, and men go hungry every day, and when unpredictable water is putting food system under pressure. In San Marino, we are implementing strategies such as plastic-free public office and reuse of plastic. Programs are adopted in school not only to raise awareness of the importance of food, but also of recycling through correct means with no waste. Food surplus is distributed through the local NGOs to those who are more in need. The core business of one of our companies involves food packaging and implementing all safe measures to preserve food correctly. Much still needs to be done. We can act on alone as we are part of a global network, but together we can make the difference. Thank you.
Together we can make the difference. So we're going to listen to one more message from Her Excellency Emma Tora-Faust, who is the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Principality of Andorra. As was mentioned, both Andorra and San Marino were leading also last year in this initiative.
C'est avec beaucoup de...
It is a real pleasure and with great interest that I'm here taking part in this event on behalf of the Principality of Andorra in celebration of the 4th International Day of Food Loss and Waste Awareness, with the theme Reducing Food Loss and Waste, Taking Action to Transform Agri-Food Systems. At the 74th UN General Assembly, Andorra and San Marino promoted the resolution to proclaim this International Day. This was an attempt to draw the international community's attention to the importance of putting in place sustainable food systems. We believe this day should provide an opportunity to generate educational activities targeting children and youth so as to foster awareness on the importance of this problem and propose multi-pronged solutions. We are far from achieving Sustainable Development Goal 2, which envisages between now and 2030, achieving zero hunger, guaranteeing food security, improving nutrition, and promoting lasting agriculture. According to UN data, 13% of the food that's produced is lost between the time it is harvested and the moment it is sold. Close to 17% of total food produced is wasted in households through retail sale and the hospitality sector. This means that all tiers of the food system are involved in one way or another. It is therefore necessary and urgent that we work to transform these systems, especially since ineffective food systems contribute to climate change. Indeed, they represent between 8 and 10% of greenhouse gas emissions, placing great pressure on the environment and the available natural resources, thus generating economic losses. Our poor consumption habits contribute to the multifaceted crisis the world is facing, the health, food, climate, and water crisis, as well as to the loss of biodiversity. The cost of food waste is unsustainable. Decisive action on the part of the international community is a must. To this end, Andorra is working to diminish food loss and waste. Our 2022 law on the circular economy aims to reduce food waste by 50% by 2030, in alignment with SDG 12.3. The law encourages changes in production habits, in distribution and food consumption habits alike. In 2023, in celebration of this day, Andorra's Environment, Agriculture and Livestock Minister put forward regulations establishing criteria for the establishment of fora to prevent food waste in commercial establishments. He also created a working group dedicated to food waste in our so-called green schools. The aim is to involve the entire education community to ensure that tomorrow's citizens are fully aware of and committed to this cause. Aid has also been put in place to promote a circular economy. It is destined for businesses, technical schools, or associations, and is allocated to innovative initiatives within this domain, especially through apps and dedicated websites. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, let us unite in combating food loss and waste. We owe it to future generations. Thank you for your kind attention.
On remercie beaucoup, Madame la Ministre.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister, for sharing with us what the Principality is doing and for inciting us to join our efforts.
Way to go, and it's with great pleasure that I would like to now give the floor here in person to Mr. Ahayan Baran, who is the Counselor for Agriculture at the Embassy of the Republic of Turkey. Merhaba, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Yasmina. Honorable Ministers, Director General of FAO, representatives of international organizations, distinguished participants. I have great pleasure in joining you at this event, International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste. I would like to thank FAO for hosting this event that provides us an important platform aiming at commemorating and raising awareness of food loss and waste worldwide. In Turkey, our efforts to reduce and prevent food loss and waste have started well before when the UN designated 29 September as the International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste. Esteemed participants, I would like to briefly mention how much we value the issue of food loss and waste in Turkey. Our first initiative was the Preventing Bread Waste campaign, which was initiated in 2008 and launched in 2013. Thanks to the awareness created by this campaign, people started buying bread more consciously, only as much as they needed, and savings were achieved. FAO declared Preventing Bread Waste campaign as a good practice example contributing to global efforts to reduce waste. During our G20 presidency in 2015, the G20 agriculture ministers highlighted the extent of food loss and waste as a global problem of enormous economic, environmental, and societal significance, and encouraged all G20 members to strengthen their collective efforts to prevent and reduce food loss and waste. G20 recommendation to reduce food loss and waste was followed the agreement between FAO and the International Food Policy Research Institute to set up the technical platform to measure and reduce food loss and waste. Launched in 2015 December, the technical platform facilitates information sharing and in-depth discussion. Today, we have all been informed about this important day through the platform, and I assure you that there is more. In 2018, in our fight against food waste, we collaborated with all actors in the food value chain. Starting with a small technical assistance project, we made a quick estimation regarding the situation of food waste in Turkey. We also studied how other countries tackled with food loss and waste together with partners such as academia, civil society, and private sector. We drafted our plans accordingly and developed another project. Operational in 2019, Reducing Food Loss and Waste in Central Asian Countries, a project funded by the government of Turkey, has led to many developments in the beneficiary countries. Later, Turkey announced its national strategy and action plan to reduce, prevent, and manage food loss and waste, and launched a national campaign named Save Your Food in 2020. Today, the campaign continues its efforts to combat food loss and waste at every level of food value chain and create public awareness both at national and international level. The campaign has reached 1 in every 5 people in Turkey, informing about food loss and waste, the campaign itself, and the recommendations. People were invited to give pledges that they would save their food, and Turkey has broken the Guinness record for the highest pledge taken in the field of environmental sustainability, thanks to 790,000 people pledges. The campaign used live broadcasts, receipt videos, and school trainings to raise consumer awareness. In collaboration with the retail sector, the campaign promoted discounted fruits and vegetables. Trainings were delivered on cooking techniques, smart shopping, and food storage. With support of our stakeholders, we prepared guides for places of mass consumption, retail, logistics, and consumers, all aimed at reducing food loss and waste. We organized Save Your Kitchen workshops to develop waste-free kitchen habits in consumers. We practiced cleaning and saved products left in the fields and distributed to them those in need. Throughout this pathway, our sensitive people and stakeholders have always been with us. When we set out, we knew that the success of this initiative could only be possible with the ownership of all the country. That's why we always acted with a broad and participatory approach. According to analysis, in household level, we saved $100 million in 1 year. We increased the number of people who plan their shopping and who are aware of how to preserve food. Awareness to know the difference between best before and use by dates on food labels increased by 20%. This prevented consumers from wasting safe to eat food with best before dates. Food waste resulting from inappropriate portion planning decreased from 22% to 13%. The reuse rate of food that was going to be wasted increased from 45% to 55%. Moreover, we found that the percentage of those composting food waste increased from 3% to 6%. In addition to continuing all the awareness-raising activities through the Save Your Food campaign, we also carry out work on food banking and food literacy, which will also add value in our efforts in reducing food loss and waste. These are the most important steps taken regarding the food loss and waste reduction and best practices in Turkey. I hope that today's event will lead to new collaborations and actions besides improving our efforts globally in our fights against food loss and waste. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baran. Sharing good practices is definitely something that is key and important. And I know that we have worked closely on campaigns with Turkey, and it has been a pleasure. I would like to now hand the floor over to Her Excellency Nina Malhotra, who is the Ambassador Permanent Representative of the Republic of India to FAO. The floor is yours, Excellency.
Thank you. Namaskar, Bonasera. Good afternoon. It's a privilege to participate in this International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste. I wish to thank the organizers, TPFLW, Secretariat, and FAO for the gracious invitation. This day serves as a poignant reminder of our collective responsibility to address one of the most pressing global challenges of our times, that is, the reduction of food loss and waste. As we gather here, it's important to reflect on the critical role that the G20 has played to center stage this global issue. The G20 Forum has been at the forefront of efforts to combat food loss and waste. Over the years, it has provided a platform for member countries to share best practices, exchange knowledge, and collaborate on strategies to reduce food loss and waste. This year, under India's G20 presidency, the New Delhi Leaders' Declaration, inter alia, has committed to reduce food loss and waste for achieving global food security and nutrition for all. In India, we also draw inspiration from our ancient scriptures that remind us of the sacred and foundational role that food plays in our lives and emphasize responsible and mindful consumption of food. Food is not only the bedrock of existence and sustenance, food also has an inseparable connection with every country's rich culture and heritage. It brings in tradition, identity, and social cohesion. Addressing the problem of food loss is not just a moral imperative, it's also an environmental and economic necessity. The consequences of our actions ripple across borders and impact the global food system. By reducing food loss and waste, we not only conserve valuable resources, but also ensure that more people have access to the nutrition that they need to thrive. Today, the world faces a staggering paradox of enormous food loss and waste, while millions suffer from hunger. Reducing food loss and waste, therefore, is a key deliverable under SDG 2030. India stands committed in addressing this pressing issue and advancing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 2 of Zero Hunger. We are confronting this problem in production and supply chains through the adoption of technological innovations and development of agri-infrastructure. India has set up $12 billion worth of agriculture infrastructure fund to incentivize creation of agriculture infrastructure in rural areas. Dedicated funds have also been set up for supporting allied sectors of agriculture, such as animal husbandry, about $2 billion, and fisheries and aquaculture, about $1 billion. Addressing the issue of food waste requires solutions beyond technology, aimed at nudging individual and collective actions towards simple lifestyle changes and fostering mindful consumption. This is the essence of Mission Life, or the Lifestyle for Environment, an idea introduced by our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi during COP26 in Glasgow, as a mass movement to promote an environmentally conscious lifestyle that focuses on mindful and deliberate utilization instead of mindless consumption. This global initiative imbibes the pivotal role of an individual's action and choices in curbing food waste at multiple levels. Our conscious efforts and collective action would directly contribute to global food security, serve as a key climate strategy by reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and brighten the prospects of achieving target SDG 12.3 of Agenda 2030. India is eager to collaborate with the global community to tackle this issue, and we look forward to advancing these discussions on a broader platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for that. Again, we hear actions, strategies, and partnerships, country level and larger groups, G20. So we each have a part to play. We have one more partner who sent us a message before we move to our chief economist, FAO's chief economist, Maximo Torero, for his presentation to give us the data. We have Ms. Sandra Galina, who is the Director General for Health and Human Safety at the European Commission.
Ministers, Directors General, colleagues and friends, when it comes to the global call to action against food loss and waste and to the commitment to Sustainable Development Goal number 12.3, we are all on the same page. However, despite political commitments and measures taken to date, we are not all on the same track, neither in the EU nor worldwide. This is why I think that we need to always bear in mind that nearly 59 million tons of food waste, 59 million, are generated in the EU every year. People are rightly alarmed about this. A European citizens panel convened by the European Commission earlier this year, you may remember, called for more action on food waste. I attended that panel and it was quite moving. We cannot let them down. These people spoke their mind. They spoke sincerely about this issue. And with only 7 years to go to the 2030 SDG deadline, we cannot let the world down, I would say. So, to step up the EU's contribution to the global target, we as European Commission have proposed a legally binding set of targets so that by 2030, the member states must reduce food waste. Now a few numbers. By 10% in processing and manufacturing, by 30% per capita jointly in retail, restaurants, food services and households. Now, by the end of 2027, we will review the progress and may adjust the EU's ambition to make for further progress towards and beyond 2030. I'm very happy to be here in front of you today. I welcome the focus on action to transform food systems for this year's International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste. I think it's really precious. International cooperation is in fact critical if we are to drive food waste out of our food system at the pace and on the scale required by SDG target 12.3. I mean, it's a huge ambition. To maintain and build on it, we need inspiration, we need leadership, we need to mobilize all players. More importantly, I would say we need to learn from each other. And this is why what we are doing today, I mean, working with a range of partners such as Food and Agriculture Organization, the UN Environmental Programme and the Champions 12.3 network, is really an honor. It's really meaning to be part of the international Foodies Never Waste coalition. This is what we should all aim to be. Now, we will continue to share our best practices in international fora and work with partners across the EU and beyond to bring as many public and private actors on board as possible. In this case, it is really a question of the more the merrier, I would say. So we need also to be reminded that time is marching on. We need to pick up the pace so that together, I insist, we can deliver solutions that keep us on track to hit the SDG target 12.3. Now, you can count on the EU to be with you at every step of the way. And I would really sincerely wish you all very fruitful proceedings because it's a very, very important matter. Thank you to you all.
We thank very much Ms. Galina for that message. I'd like to hand over to Maximo Torero for his presentation. We did hear food is never waste, and that makes me think ugly fruit, let's eat our ugly fruit, and we hope to hear that from Chef Leila Fathallah very soon. So I hand over to Maximo now.
Okay, thank you so much. And I will try to be brief, but give some ideas of where we are and where we have progressed over time. I will just take, hope, 10 minutes so that we can bring some of the numbers. So first, all of you have heard about these numbers. And these are the situation that we face in terms of chronic undernourishment, in terms of children less than 5 years having significant problems of nutrition indicators, 3.1 billion people that don't have access to healthy diets, and all the nutrient deficiencies that we have. And the reason why we have been bringing this up, which are updated with the latest SOFI, is basically because on the contrary, we have 30% of the food loss or waste. But one of the major, I think, progress that we have done in the last years is the definition. Because people used to confuse a lot what loss was and what waste was. And the SOFA of 2019 brought a very clear definition which basically capture food losses up to the wholesale level included, and food waste from retail to consumer. Just that effort, I think, pay a lot because it helped countries to orient policies towards what we should be doing, because the policies, as we will hear later, are very different in the side of waste with respect to the side of losses. So I think this is the first thing that FAO did with the SOFA 2019. The second thing is, of course, this number that have been measured of losses. And the latest number that we have, which is an update with respect to the SOFA 2019, is the 13.2% in the case of losses. And the 17% comes from UNEP. Now we need to be careful because they cannot be added up because there are some overlaps in those numbers. That's why we always treat them separately. But then we also bring the externalities to this issue. And the externalities is the 8 to 10% of greenhouse gas emissions that are happening not only because of the production process of what is not used, but also because of the way we destroy what we waste in terms of food, which creates significant emissions. But also there are externalities in terms of the land being used, 1.4 billion, that is basically misused because that is not becoming edible food that people is eating, 250 cubic kilometers of water footprint, and ecosystem destruction. So this is impactful. So it's not only that we are not delivering food to people, but also we are misusing our natural resources, and we are even increasing more the greenhouse gas emissions. So this graph just shows the 13.2%, which is where we are today at the global number, and it shows like Sub-Saharan Africa, for example, is the continent where the biggest numbers are, and even if we decompose this by commodities between high value and staples, the biggest impact will be in high value commodities. Now, what this means 120 kilogram per capita lost, 931 million metric tons in total, but that's a lot of food in the world that is being lost under the situation that we are facing today, which doesn't make any sense and is completely unethical what we are facing. Even more, we have seen that we decompose by type of commodity. Fruits and vegetables are the one where we have the biggest loss together with roots, tubers, and oil-earing crops. So these are core elements of what we call healthy diets and diversification of diets. So again, an inconsistency that we need to look. And if we estimate, for example, a reduction of 15% of the fruits and vegetables being lost, we will have enough grams of fruits and vegetables per person per day to comply to what is required, the minimum recommendation to supply to individuals. So again, significant challenges and things to look very carefully why this is happening. So aggregate data helps to give an idea of the problems that we have. But the other issue is another lesson that is something that we have progressed on. So when you look at the literature and when you look at all the implementation, not only the literature, in the last years, it has been mostly on post-harvest, storage facilities, post-harvest technologies, and so on. But when we start looking at micro data, very carefully at the farmer level, and trying to look across the value chain, and here I just present some examples by country and by commodity, because this has to be specific to the commodity and to the varieties of the country and the attributes of the commodity of the country. We observe in the green color here, no matter the methodology we use, we are testing here 3 methodologies, what we called the subjective method, the category method, or the attribute method, just to see consistency. And this was done together with 2 colleagues which are present here today. But the green area shows us that most of the losses are happening at the farmer level and not at the intermediary, neither at the processor level. Now that's a big change, because even if we look within the farmer level, most of it are happening in the pre-harvest part, not in the post-harvest part. So the perception and all the interventions only focusing on the post-harvest, not necessarily were the correct way to go. So it's very difficult to have one simple solution to the problem. So it's very important to look in detail to the problem and what is going on. And this is basically the new app that we have created, the FLAP, that will be presented later, how we can collect this information massively. Another important issue is the linkages with climate change, because we are worried today of the 13.2% of losses, but things could get significantly worse because of climate change. And climate change will affect the way pests and diseases evolve, and will affect how much we will be affecting food because of droughts or floods and a lot of other problems. The extreme weather events will also significantly affect this. So this is dynamic, and although the number has reduced marginally between the previous estimation we have, this could change substantially because of the challenges and the problems we will be facing. So our tools also have to be focused on this, and whatever we do to increase resilience to this type of shocks will also bring significant benefits. And one other thing which is important, and here there is an error in the colors, but if you look at the first 2 bars, they refer to 2022. The second 2 bars, they refer to 2020. The top of the first 2 bars is more than before, and the red is less than before. The light blue is more than before in 2020. The orange one is less than before in 2020. Look at what is happening because of the increase in prices. Significant worries on part of the consumers that they are checking very carefully prices. They are checking use dates more than before. They are worried about want to see the product and touch the products. They use labels to compare products, and they make more unplanned purchases. So basically that has significantly reduced. So they are planning a lot better. So the shock of the increase in prices have significantly affected the way consumers behave. And yesterday was a launch of the observatory of the Italian Waste Watcher, and basically what they show is that waste have reduced substantially in Italy as a result of this increase in prices. Now this opens a huge opportunity, because what it tells us is that today the stick, price is high, has changed behavior of people. But can we convert that stick into a carrot? How we can provide incentives to people today so that they can change the way they operate and the way they behave in the way they purchase. Because we hope prices won't continue to be as high as they are. But this is the exact opportunity where FAO can do a lot of work to try to find out what else we can provide to these consumers so that they continue this process and they don't go back to wasting a lot of food because they were not careful in what they bought. Which tells us that the behavioral change can happen, and can happen massively. And that's where we need to take advantage and learn how to operate. So clearly, all this is linked to environment, to social and economic benefits that we will be observing. And we know that reducing food loss and waste will create the three quick wins. No? It will improve availability of high-value commodities especially. It will improve the use of our natural resources, but it will also reduce emissions to the world, and that's what we are aiming to. Now, what type of interventions and why this is a triple win? Normally, when we do interventions, we have to look also at the trade-offs. And when we try to do a meta-analysis of all the work that has been done in this topic, compared to other types of interventions, like in this case, adoption of healthy diets, adopting sustainable diets, improving trade integration, and so on and so forth, the most cases in which we have greener, meaning that there is not a negative trade-off, is the case of food loss and waste. Even in the case of target 2.3, if you look at the first line, and you see a red in terms of a smallholder income, because the assumption is if I produce more because less is lost, my prices will go down. But that's not necessarily true in the case of food, especially in high-value commodities, because the quality deterioration will be based on attributes. So even farmers can get more money because they will differentiate more the product if they comply with those attributes. So clearly, the case of food loss reduction and waste reduction has a significant impact and has the less trade-off. And we simulate this also looking at other interventions with a global model. And here you see by income level countries what will be the impact of different interventions in the horizontal axis, when the fourth one is food loss and waste reduction. And what we observe when we do that in these trade-offs that we analyze here, which are essentially emissions, energy in agriculture, agricultural land, forest habitat, and index of chemical and input use, is that the only one, the purple, that decrease those externalities when we do these interventions is food loss and waste reduction. So clearly is the intervention that, although the impact not necessarily will be as huge as increasing productivity, but is the one that reduces the most the trade-offs. So we need to look at very carefully all these benefits and try to optimize for this. Now, countries realize this, and this is what happens in the Food System Summit and in the stock-taking moment, that 70% of the countries that have developed pathways are talking about food loss and waste as one of the pathways they want to follow and one of the actions they want to implement. So that's something very important over which we can work with countries, and that's why in the Never Waste Coalition and in other initiatives with the champions, we're trying to bring commitments from countries that will allow us to follow this, and especially to provide concrete solutions to their problems with a good indicator of a baseline of where they are today in terms of that. And basically, the topics that they are bringing is awareness, waste management, whole food supply chain analysis, education and capacity development, data, food processing, national knowledge, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So countries understand the problem, and you will hear today very important cases of countries which are doing this transformation, and that's where we need to work. So our job is not only to increase the data, but it's also to bring innovations and bring solutions. We have been working with Rabobank. We have been trying to do cooling facilities together with the World Bank. We have been working with other IFIs to bring those type of solutions. And we also have created solutions that don't necessarily require the intervention of governments. That means that farmers will change their own behavior if the market provides the proper price incentives for the attributes of the effort they are doing. And that is happening, and we have tested those kinds of things. And we also have tested learning through children in the schools to improve behavior of parents at their household. So these country capacities and knowledge has to accelerate, and that could make a big difference in the way we are going to do. So sound data plays a crucial indicator. We need to keep doing that. It's the only way we are going to track progress. And that's why we have developed the app, the FLAP, that will be presented later, which is in the left-hand side. But we also need to bring solutions which are context-specific, but especially that they target the problem across the value chain, and not just come up with blunt solutions, let's do more storage, let's do more of this, without really knowing what is the problem that the farmers are facing, or what is the behavioral change that we want to bring together. FAO has tried to bring also the digital side and digital technologies, and we are working with a series of apps to try to help farmers to improve their efficiency and the way they produce to be able to solve the problems they are doing. And finally, we have the platform that was launched in the Turkey G20, and we keep working with the platform because it's a way in which we can share and build networks to share the information, like many very successful cases of countries which have seriously committed to the reduction of food loss and waste in the future. So thank you so much, and thank you so much for staying here.
Thank you very much, Maximo, for that. That data, without the data, we are in the dark. But what we saw just brought a whole bunch of solutions to light. So thank you very much for that. Very, very interesting, because I spent my time looking and didn't realize you had already stepped down from the podium. So apologies on that. But again, as we said, every little bit counts. And later in the session, we're going to hear from Dermot Gavin, who's a garden designer, broadcaster. Some of you might have seen the King's Garden. That would be Dermot's latest task or job. He's also FAO's National Goodwill Ambassador for Ireland. He's been having those conversations around Ireland and beyond, what you were talking about, Maximo, about changing behavior and attitudes. And right now, I'm just going to show you a very quick film, which is a quick discussion between Chef Connor Spacey and Dermot, and he'll tell us more about it later when it's his turn, about zero waste and being an advocate of zero waste. So if we could have that short video before we move on to our panel discussion.
Connor Spacey is a chef with a particular interest in global food sustainability. Connor, why is this issue so important when it comes to chefs in restaurants? Why is the respect for food so important?
If you think where chefs sit in the food chain, like we're right in the middle. So we decide where we spend our money, what ingredients we're buying. So we have this connection to a farmer, or in a lot of cases we don't have that connection to a farmer, and we need to have that connection. And then our customers, the consumers that come into our hotels and cafes and restaurants, we can also influence them by the dishes we create, what's on our menu, and why, and have that narrative about why we're using certain ingredients, where people can then take that information home and change in their homes as well. So I see chefs as key to being part of fixing what is a broken food system.
So Connor, your role has become that of an educator as well as a chef.
It is a dual role. It's trying to get chefs more creative about food that we normally wouldn't use, and it's trying to show them the knock-on effects, the amount of work, energy, water, transport, everything that goes into our ingredients that is wasted when we throw food into a bin, and likewise show consumers the importance of using everything. I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm going back to older practices of 2 generations ago where this was the norm, and trying to bring that into modern day food.
Connor, are there things that we can all do in our own kitchens?
At home, it's about planning, first of all. You know, am I at home every evening? Is all my family members at home every evening? How much food do I need to cook? And then it's about what am I going to cook in the time frame that I have? And really then about what have I got left over from that? And that's what we never really think about. You know, it's about regenerating food back into another delicious dishes. And we've almost become such a busy people that we're almost at this throwaway culture where we'll create a dish and what's left from that is surplus, is just in the bin, and it's trying to break that habit.
Thank you for that quick look, and we're going to have a much more in-depth look as well when Chef Leila Fathallah comes on later on. She is going to show us here exactly how to not do that waste. And for those of you who have been patient in staying with us, you will get to taste something along those lines. So do stay with us. We'll move to our panel discussion, though, about reducing food loss and waste, accelerating the pace. What are the actions to transform agri-food systems? We have with us, and both virtually and present, we have Ms. Angela Crone, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Upcycled Food Association in the USA. We have Ms. Christine Gould, who is the founder and executive officer of Thought for Food in Switzerland. With us, we have Mr. Steve Lapige, who is founder and CEO of Fight Food Waste Cooperative Research Center in Australia. And we have Themba Ndwakana, who is director responsible for agro-processing, Department of Trade and Industry, South Africa. And we have Ms. Lilian dos Santos Rahal, who is the National Secretary for the Food and Nutrition Security, Ministry of Development and Social Assistance, Family and Fight Against Hunger from Brazil. Thank you all very much for being with us and for your patience and for being able to share with us your insights. As we're running a little bit short, so I'm going to be quick and try and speak as quickly as I can and ask you very much. In no special order, so please forgive me. I'd like to start with Angie Crone. And would like to know if you could provide us with a short overview of how Upcycled Food Association started and what has the response been? And actually, if you could, for people like me, let me know, what does upcycling mean? And how do we go about it? What can we do? Over to you.
Thank you, and absolutely. Well, first, I will just start by saying what an honor it is to be here in conversation, and thank you to everyone for hosting this special day. I'm incredibly grateful to be able to share a bit about how we're making progress on this critical issue at the Upcycled Food Association. So to start with a little history, the Upcycled Food Association has a collective vision that all food is elevated to its highest and best use, which we believe is to feed people. And we were established around this collective vision in 2019 with the goal to bring together companies who were working to create value-added products from discarded edible food so that they could learn from each other, that they could lean on each other, and also collaborate in creating the enabling market conditions that would be necessary to reduce the amount of wasted food through their products. We have seen an enthusiastic response to date, where we started with 9 companies in 2019. We now have a membership of over 250 organizations across 20 countries, representing a true center of gravity, if you will, for those producing upcycled foods. So you asked, what does upcycled food mean exactly? Well, this was also one of the very first questions that we asked and acted upon as an association. So in 2020, we developed a task force that included representatives from government, academia, industry, and nonprofit partners to develop a formal definition of upcycled foods so that efforts could be standardized, and also to ease consumer education efforts through a shared unified messaging across the food sector. So the formal definition has 3 components. The first component is that upcycled foods use ingredients that otherwise would not have gone to human consumption. This means that the ingredient would have remained unharvested or is considered unmarketable, or that it would end up in landfill or compost or even animal feed. The second component is that the food is procured and produced using a verifiable supply chain. We felt it was very important to ensure traceability and transparency of how that food was sourced. And then the third component is that the food has a positive impact on the environment, which could be related to reductions in resource use such as water, or alleviation of pressure of croplands, reduced carbon emissions, and also impact on municipal landfills. And it was from this definition that the association then established the first third-party certification for upcycled foods called Upcycled Certified. So this program was launched in 2022 and really acts as the steward of this definition of upcycled foods, and it provides companies a framework for the production of upcycled foods and gives consumers assurance that the ingredients and products used actually do reduce wasted food. It also aligns with our collective global goals to uphold the value of producing products in a more sustainable way. As an association, we see certification very necessary for both measurement and is also extremely valuable to sort of build the awareness and also change consumption patterns at the consumer level. The certification offers a very powerful tool for storytelling, for connecting all the various players from across the food value chain, and also empowers the consumer to purchase food waste minimizing products that they use every day. And so to this, we have also seen a very positive response and see rapidly growing adoption in the US and Canada where it's currently available. Since the launch of the program, over 90 companies have produced nearly 500 products and ingredients that have gone through the rigorous verification audit to demonstrate their food waste reduction practices and have achieved certification. And collectively, these products and ingredients represent about 1 billion pounds of food that has been diverted from a waste destination. So this is making a measurable and yes, still small, but very meaningful impact. And we're very proud of the progress that we've made in just a few short years. And we also know there's so much more to do and there's so much potential and possibility just through upcycling to reduce sort of the issue of food loss and waste.
Thank you very much for that, Angie. I hope I can call you Angie and be on first name basis, as we're here all collectively to find solutions. Later on, we had thought we would be able to do a round robin, but we won't necessarily for time. But what I'd like to ask is, after presentations, if the panelists would type in to the chat, because we still have a number of people who are following us. What do you think some of the quick wins are, and where can we start? What kinds of actions can we each take, and people can go away with that. And I think my colleagues here will be able to do a synthesis and put on the website following this if we can't get to the round robin. So with that, I'm going to go to Ms. Kristen Gould. And you've been working in many countries with small companies, youth engagement on technology-based solutions, and we heard Maximo talk about how we're going to digital solutions, et cetera, and innovation. So with your perspective, what types of activities are you taking or looking at to reduce food loss and waste? And can you share a little bit of that with us?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this opportunity, for celebrating this important day and an opportunity for all of us to take action around this critical issue. I'd also like to say hi to, many people from the FAO and other international organizations that I've had the pleasure to work with through the years. At Thought for Food, we're an organization that's dedicated to mobilizing innovation and action around the prevailing challenges facing our food system. For entrepreneurs, challenges are opportunities. And when we look at our natural systems, we know there is no such thing as waste. And we've actually designed, complex agricultural and food systems that have unfortunately brought about inefficiencies. But when you think about it, and you think about the fact that we've designed these systems, we also have the power in our hands to design new systems and new solutions. And that's what I'm really inspired day in and day out to see by working with innovators all over the world who really have that lens of looking at these challenges as opportunities and saying, we're going to do something about that. And we've provided a platform for them to come together, to learn from each other, and to access, resources and mentorship and investments that can help them to move forward. And I really think I want to highlight some of the solutions that we're seeing from farm to fork. Of course, we're helping farmers to close the yield gap through new types of biological approaches and regenerative approaches. We're reducing post-harvest losses through things like better storage systems. I'm also excited by some of the new biological technologies like phages that are coming in that can reduce disease and the impacts of like molds, etc. We're seeing sensors and sustainable packaging systems that are preserving food quality and minimizing harm to food across the supply chain. Of course, it's been mentioned, data is helping to enable better logistics, connecting, farms to logistics and distribution centers and consumers more efficiently. We're also seeing smart tech being deployed not only at retail level, but also at distribution centers. And that's really important to highlight because, we have these large warehouses where food is stored, and now we're seeing solutions coming in to get the right food to the right place at the right level of quality at the right time, all powered, through data. And of course, some of those other solutions that I mentioned. And of course, we just heard about upcycling. We're seeing, circular systems that are valorizing, food products that would otherwise go to waste, and also byproducts. And so I'm actually here in Mexico City right now, and I've been attending the largest food tech conference in Latin America. And it's been really exciting to see how many companies here in Latin America and actually all around the world are taking agricultural waste and converting that into, food ingredients, that help to improve the nutrition and quality of the food that we eat. So those are just a snapshots of some of the startups, that are coming in to solve every part of food loss and waste across the value chain. And I just wanted to highlight too that we're also working with big companies, the likes of Cargill, for example. But I also think it's really interesting. We've collaborated with DHL, the global logistics company, and this is really exciting to me because, we need to break out of our silos in the food system and look towards those other areas that can help us to enable to do things better. Things like telecoms companies, data companies, and logistics companies like DHL. And I think it's really exciting to see them stepping into the role that they can play to ensure, better food supply chains. So yeah, that's a little bit about what we do. And I look forward to the discussion and connecting with all of you. Like I mentioned, we're a platform for action and collaboration. We offer a plethora of resources so that people can increase their awareness about this topic and also, develop right-sized solutions that really fit the needs of their market and context. And I think another last point I want to make is that we're also really energizing and inspiring people. So the data and information about these topics are serious and daunting, but we're also showing people that building solutions are, fun and energizing and filled with opportunities, investment opportunities and business opportunities. We can do good by doing good business. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. And it's really interesting. I'll just, after we have our first round, the one thing that I'll ask is for each of you to give us one of these good examples or one of these examples of how you're putting that to practice. So, Mr. Steve Lapige, your work with Food Waste Cooperative in Australia has been a very interesting one. You spoke, and hopefully I'm paraphrasing you correctly, but you mentioned that a regulation-heavy approach is unlikely to be taken, and that it's important to partner with companies and foster that change. Could you tell us a little bit about what your approach has been, and do you have what you have as examples of success?
Certainly. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss the Fight Food Waste CRC. We've actually got, the organisation itself is called Fight Food Waste Limited. It has two divisions, the Fight Food Waste CRC, which is all about industry-based science. The other division is Stop Food Waste Australia, and that's more focused on some of the traditional tools around trying to halve food waste, so voluntary agreements, sector action plans, and just as of last week, it was announced that we've been funded to create a nationwide consumer behaviour change campaign. So between all of those different areas, we have 5 pillars, and we believe we're close to having all the ingredients there to achieve that target of halving food waste by 2030 in Australia. We are a big food waster by international standards, and we've certainly got a long way to go. But to do that, you certainly need the right ingredients, and we've been able to assemble a lot of them. So we have a vision of an Australia without food waste. We track everything we do against an impact tool, and on that impact tool, we are making significant progress against the target, but as I said, we've got a long way to go. The analogy I often use around our organisation is that we look for the carrots rather than the sticks. And I presented here yesterday to the Food Loss and Waste Group and often talked about finding those carrots. So we tend not to regulate as much in Australia, and we're trying to work with industry partners, and we work with around 100 partners on any given day to look for those carrots. So the economic incentives, the social incentives, the environmental incentives to reduce their food waste. If there's a dollar that can be created out of it, then even better.
Thank you very much for that, Steve. And we'll hear from Leila and Dermot that it can be an ugly carrot. It doesn't matter. It's going to get you to where you need to be with reducing food loss and waste. So I'd like to turn now to a more sort of country perspective or government perspective with both Temban and Wakana and Lillian de Santos Rahal. So let me start first on the South Africa side and ask about the shifting policy that South Africa has, the national policy. And we'd really like to hear about the examples of how South Africa has been working towards eliminating food loss and waste along the agri-food value chain. Over to you, and thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much, Program Director, for the opportunity to participate today, and greetings to everyone. In my country, we say all protocol observed. This is done so that you make sure that you didn't leave anyone out in the greeting, especially the dignitaries. So yes, in South Africa, it was actually rather the other way around. We didn't start by creating policies or strategies for food loss and waste, but the strategy was born as a result of the work that we did with the food manufacturers and the retailers, which then saw us launching the Food Waste and Loss Initiative. That was in 2020. This is just a voluntary agreement that is signed by private sector companies. So it will be companies in the food value chain, your food producers, the food processors, and the retailers. The aim really is to eliminate food waste along the entire value chain. And to date, we have 74 co-signatories to the voluntary agreement and 41 associate signatories. So how we created our voluntary agreement, we put together working groups. So we will have a working group for donations. I'm making an example, which then will develop, like they develop their own food donation guideline, which really guides companies on what to know before they donate and how to donate within the law, considering that you are dealing with consumers, the consumer safety issues and the like. So here we work with organizations like the food banks to donate surplus foods. So it's either a retailer or a food manufacturer that wants to donate food. That helps us with food security. The other working group we developed was the measurement working group. There you'll find signatories identifying the waste hotspots within their companies. Then they measure the wastage and then act. In acting, that's when they deploy strategies that reduce food loss and waste, with the mind obviously to totally eliminate waste along the value chain. We are reporting in South Africa, companies are reporting on this, on waste. We've developed an online tool just now to collect data, and we piloted the tool with the 10 of our big companies, and we'll be launching this tool just next week. I think the one that I want to focus on is the regulation working group, which we put together consisting of policymakers from government. You'll appreciate that in South Africa, we didn't have any, thing on food waste, no policy, no strategy. And so we had to put together all the policymakers that will be from your Department of Health, Agriculture, where I sit also trade and industry, environment, which is very key, the environmental department, because they sit with the waste mandate. So before, food waste was just clubbed under general waste. So there was no way of measuring how much food goes to waste, because it was just called general waste with any other forms of general waste. So in 2021, those regulators got together to deal with the food loss and waste regulatory framework. And this saw the country producing its first food loss and waste guideline, which was published in November 2022. In the same year, we also developed the management strategy for food waste prior to retail. But because we wanted to capture the entire value chain, the country started developing the strategy for food loss. We call it food loss and waste, strategy for food loss and waste, which is now out for public comment. The aim really is to develop an action plan that then will seek to reduce or even eliminate food waste along the entire value chain. So doing this using or adopting of new technology looking at circular economy approaches, and ultimately improving the food security. I mean, you might be aware that in the countries, especially in Africa, there are a lot of concerns on food security, but also want to mitigate the negative environmental impacts that are associated with the food waste. The strategy really targets the waste along the production and supply chain and through to the retail stage. So that's where we are as a country. And if I was listening, I heard you saying I should also just give some examples. I'll just pick one today. Where, I mean, one of our biggest retailers in South Africa, one of the biggest retailer, I mean, is an example in the retail stage. I mean, it's Pick and Pay, I'll say their name today. So their strategy, they are one of the co-signatories to the voluntary agreement. Their strategy focused on accurate procurement, replenishment, and demand planning, and this saw them reducing 28% of food waste within their organization, and over 882 tons of food was donated to NGOs. So this will not just contribute, or is not just contributing to alleviating hunger in the needy communities, but as a result also, they will have reduction in their CO2, thereby minimizing their carbon footprint. They've diverted 62% of the general waste away from the landfill. And over the past 3 years, they've achieved more than 120 million rands reduction in waste costs. So I thought I'll bring that example today just to show that something is happening and we are already starting to see the impact on the ground. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Temba, for that and for the example, for going ahead and giving us that example. It was very good. So that way we can also get to a couple of each example before we move into our closing session. I'd like to go to Lilian de Santos. Rahal, hello. Okay, are you still with us? Thank you, from Brazil. And maybe you could give us a few of the national strategies that are also being implemented and an example that you find to be successful. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Yasmina. Thank you, FAO, for this invitation. And first of all, according to the Brazilian Institute of Geography and Statistics, around 30% of the food produced in our country ends up being thrown away. This is the equivalent of around 46 million tons of food a year. So we have a huge challenge. And in Brazil, we have developed some strategies to address food loss and waste. For food loss, we have worked with different strategies in the agri-food system, especially more sustainable ways of production, like a plan for low-carbon agriculture, a plan of agroecology and organic production, among others, including logistic challenges and an intersectoral strategy for the reduction of food losses and waste. And just for waste, we have, for example, a strategy centered on food banks, and we established in Brazil a Brazilian network of food banks. And our food banks can be public or private, and most of them have a double purpose. We collect, these food banks collect and receive, among other things, food that could otherwise be wasted because it doesn't meet marketing standards, and even though it preserves the conditions for human consumptions and redirects it to groups in social vulnerability. But our food banks have been used as well as spaces to receive, stock, and distribute food from family farmers programs, including food from family farmers for school meals, facilitating the short circuits for food production, commercialization, and consumption. In this way, these food banks are important food supply structures aimed at reducing waste and food insecurity. These structures have been supported by our ministry, the Ministry of Social Development here in Brazil, in different ways. We are working in publication of reference documents for the implementation and improvement of equipment management, transferring research to states and municipalities for the implementation and modernization of food banks, and in the organization and mobilization of the networking of food banks also. We established this Brazilian network of food banks, and currently there are 274 food banks in operation in this network here in Brazil, potentially reintroducing food into the distribution chain. And finally, I will point out some initiatives that we are making exactly now. We are making a revision of our intersectoral strategy for the reduction of food losses and waste. And we are making a new agreement, a technical cooperation agreement with Brazilian Association of Supply Centers to boost food collection within the food losses and waste concept for implementation in food banks in all supply centers of the country. This will be signed in the next month, and I think with this we are trying to make these strategies important in our country and in our government too. Thank you very much, Yasmina.
Thank you very much, Lillian, for that and for that example. I'm going to ask very quickly, 30 seconds, literally, and I'm going to go in reverse order, alphabetical order, start with Steve, then Kristen and Angie. If there's one thing from your work that you would like to highlight, one success in 30 seconds, that would be great.
Oh, there's so many after 5 years. Look, I think some of the work that's really going to move the dial is our work around tax incentives for the food rescue sector. Despite being a country of 27 million people, we've still got 5 million people that are food insecure. And if we can work with the government to create tax incentives for food donation, that will certainly help reduce our food loss and waste.
Super, thank you for that, Steve. I think we heard that from Maximo as well, incentives, how to do that. Kristen, on your end, is there one thing that you think that has been a success in your area?
Yeah, so I think that we've helped game-changing solutions to grow and take hold in the market through scaling opportunities. And we've also brought, fun and energy through the deployment of 2 feature films about next generation solutions. So check those out. I'll post them in the chat.
Super, next generation solutions, and this generation too. So great. Angie, over to you. What do you have for us?
Yeah, so many things. It's hard to choose just one, but I think just a big win more recently was 2023 was the first year that UFA participated in sort of policy activities at the US level. We don't have a lot of commitments right now at the government level, but just last week we saw the introduction of a marker bill to hopefully go into sort of an omnibus bill for the US Farm Bill that we were able to influence and ensure that upcycled foods were part of the conversation as we advance food loss and waste initiatives nationally. And so continuing to engage the government institutions, as much as we're engaging the private sector, I think will also help to move the needle and accelerate our progress.
Super, thank you very much for that. We heard that government as well, bills, we saw that with the Republic of Turkey, as Mr. Baran is still with us, we saw that happen. We saw also partnerships with companies and culture and youth, very, very important. And with that, I want to thank our panelists, and I want to move into our national goodwill ambassadors and our regional goodwill ambassadors from both UNEP and FAO, who are with us here for call to actions, because it's all about the actions that we're going to do. So a very quick segue with a film again from Dermot Gavin and Chef Rodrigo Pacheco, who is also a national goodwill ambassador for FAO in Ecuador. We're covering the whole planet because everybody has to do their own part. So a quick video, and then we're going to have the pleasure to hear from Chef Leila Fathallah.
I'm really excited to be joined today by fellow FAO Goodwill Ambassador, Chef Rodrigo Pacheco, who joins us from Ecuador. Hi, Rodrigo.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very good. Rodrigo, you're a great chef, and I know one of the things you're particularly interested in is food waste.
Yes, losing food is not necessary because there's so many ways to avoid it and then to create added value out of the waste. Sometimes we see waste as something negative, as something that is left over. But if we change our vision a little bit, we will see waste as an opportunity.
So there is something that we can all do, Rodrigo. It's not just up to governments and corporations.
If we ask for transformation in the world, we must transform our own homes, our own kitchens, right? So let's start from there. By transforming our habits, we can definitely contribute to a better world.
What can people do? Let's say they've prepared the evening meal. Let's say there's a lot of organic matter left over. What should people do with that from a chef's point of view?
When you have a leftover, you just have to be creative and say, okay, I'm going to have these leftovers from the potato salad. So next morning, I'm going to do an egg tortilla, and I'm going to add those potatoes that we had left over from last night's supper.
So start simply, start opening your eyes, look what's happening around, start planning, and use the resources respectfully.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid. When you see that apple that is asking you to take her out of the fridge, well, add it to the salad, add it to the pancakes in the morning, add it to the roasted pork in the evening without wasting food.
I think that is wonderful, practical advice, and it's something that we can all do, Rodrigo. Thank you so much. Great to see you.
We thank both Dermot and Rodrigo for that. But also we heard earlier on that solutions need to be localized also, and they need to take into account what is happening in a specific area. And it's really with great pleasure that I say marhaba to Chef Leila Fathallah, who is the advocate for food waste, for reduction of food waste for West Asia, and is with the UN Environment Program. She's a goodwill ambassador for them, and of course, we are partners. So marhaba, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm extremely happy to be here today, and I wish to thank UNEP and FAO for inviting me. My name is Chef Leila Fathallah. I am UNEP advocate on food waste in West Asia for the upcoming 3 years. Prior to that, I was one of the 10 chefs from the region who were the voice of the Recipe of Change, an initiative by UNEP West Asia Office to have food waste in the region and achieve SDG goal 12.3. I'm here today to share with you my experience as chef and as UNEP advocate in tackling food waste in West Asia. I'm here to tell you that reducing food waste at home or at the restaurant and hotel level is possible because we have experienced it and the results were impressive. Cutting food waste is something we can all do. Every day, every plate counts. My message is very simple. To all families at home, we have to value food and value every ingredient in our kitchen by being creative and using many traditional recipes. Food is more than just sustenance. It's a reflection of our culture, heritage, and connection to the earth. It nourishes our bodies and souls, providing joy and comfort. Food is a powerful medium for bringing people together. And did you know that 61% of food waste at consumer level occurs in the household? Cutting food waste at home is one of the best ways to reduce your climate footprint individually and to cut down on household expenses. This means we need better management on food and preparation, doing what we can do to extend the shelf life of food, but it also means changing the way we shop. Traditional recipes and techniques often teach us to use every part of any ingredient, enabling us to make the most out of food and leave nothing to waste. A practical example of these practices is the recipe of change. Through the initiative, we have given tips to households to reduce food waste by planning before shopping, shopping only what they need, cooking the quantities they consume, storing food in an adequate way, and donating leftovers and compost. As our efforts had proven so successful at household level, we have decided to expand our call to action to HoReCa sector. My second message is to businesses and chefs. Chefs must encourage restaurants to embed food waste reduction within their business model. Restaurants play a critical role in making it easier for their customers to reduce food waste. As chefs, we can work with restaurants to encourage the adoption of sustainable and food waste preventing practices and business models. We can provide guidance to restaurants on creating menus that prioritize locally sourced seasonal ingredients and minimize waste. Share recipes and cooking techniques that highlight sustainable food use practices. Offer a variety of portion sizes and encourage customers to take a doggy bag if they have significant leftovers. Encourage consumers to use their leftovers for compost at home. Collaborate with restaurants to establish food recovery programs that donate surplus food to local charities and help create protocols for safe and responsible food donations. Another successful story from West Asia is the Green Ramadan initiative. UNEP West Asia partnered with Hilton Hotel across 3 countries, UAE, Qatar, and Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and managed through zero waste recipes and a proper food waste management to reduce food waste by 61%. I am confident that these practices can be upscaled all over the world, and I encourage all of you to take action. If we manage to succeed, you can all succeed. Before closing, I wish to thank the UNEP and FAO again for having me here and our partner, Go for SDG, for believing in us since the beginning and supporting our initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Leila. Very, very important, and I'm sure that everybody has taken notes of the points that you were saying, what it is that we can do, and especially yesterday or the day before was I was remiss to say Mulud Karim, which is a Happy New Year. One of the initiatives where you spend time around food, cultural food, and it's important to take all of those moments to really infuse the notion of not wasting and giving food at that moment, an extension of the food bank, but through culture and through sharing in your own home. So thank you very much for that. I'd like to go now to Dermot Gavin, who's going to give us a few of his words on his approach to how you actually, as a designer, a gardener, tackle this issue of food loss and waste. Over to you, Dermot.
Thank you, Yasmina. And just before I start, can I say congratulations to you and all the team here at the FAO for organising such an important conference so well. Ladies and gentlemen, I was brought up, I just want to talk initially about the changes in such a short amount of time in terms of our food systems and how we perceive food. I was brought up in the suburbs of Dublin, which is a small city in the capital of a small country, a small agricultural country, Ireland. Many families were just 1 or 2 generations from being farmers. In my early years, food shopping took place weekly. We'd take a bus into the city and fruit and vegetables were purchased from market stalls. The choice available was limited but nutritious. Potatoes, cabbage, apples, oranges were a staple. Avocado and asparagus had yet to be discovered in Ireland. Strawberries were locally grown and only appeared when the sun shone, if it shone, from mid-July. And no one was flying in kiwi fruits from New Zealand. We ate well. There were simpler times with simpler diets, but Ireland was on a road, a different road, to progress and prosperity. When I was 6 years of age, Ireland's first shopping centre opened. It was a place of seemingly magic, filled with glamour and excitement. Its large car park was instantly packed, and a visit there became the weekly family excursion. Cash registers all of a sudden were electronic, and conveyor belts fed the piles of groceries to the till. It was convenient, the food was affordable, it was clean, and there was choice, so much choice. Soon there were 10 shopping centres, and we could purchase really anything we wanted from anywhere. Food systems became sophisticated, and within years the choice was off the scale: fruit, vegetables, meat and poultry from all around the world, often washed, sliced, or even pre-prepared, cooked, and waiting to meet a microwave. We began to lose sight of our family connections to food. We began to lose sight of where our food came from, how it was produced, by whom. Convenience became all important. Our food became a commodity. And because we had so much of it, we really began to not respect it, and we began to waste it. There was a different price to pay. Our economy developed around the principles of convenience and low prices, whatever the cost. But now, from everything we've heard today, we're realizing that food is life, and we need to value it and where and how it is grown. And we need to acknowledge that we're damaging the very systems that allow us to exist. Food brings us all together. It feeds and nourishes us. A lot of our precious food, however, and all the inputs, whether it be soil, water, fertilizer, seed, the energy used in producing it, they're lost when food is overproduced, or if it's not harvested properly, or handled properly, packaged, processed, stored, or distributed properly. Our food systems are under great threat, more threat than ever before, because we have so much undervalued our land, our rivers, our seas, all places that provide for us. And our demands for so much, for plenty, for so much choice, have put pressure on other territories with maybe poorer landscape, where wages are low and where resources are scarce and the land is vulnerable. Climate change, which is affecting each and every one of us, is resulting in devastating crop failures. Pests and diseases are flourishing, and soil erosion is having an awful effect in countries all across the globe. We're seeing the results in availability of what we expect and the prices which we pay when we shop. But we are beginning to understand, beginning to learn, and beginning to take account and action. There are practical solutions, different systems, one that each one of us can adopt, each one of us can participate in. All of us as consumers can contribute to reducing food waste. By doing so, we can collectively make a difference. We must begin to value our food, change our behaviour, and reduce food waste in our homes and when eating out. So what can we all do? What can you and I do? If we can afford to, if you have the space to, you can start by growing some food yourself. You can start by eating food that's produced seasonally. You can start by maybe freezing the leftovers for the next day in the meals that you cook at home, or when dining out, taking that doggy bag and using the leftovers at home. We can recycle part of the foods that cannot be consumed, the fruit and vegetable peels, the eggshells, the tea bags, the coffee grounds, by making our own compost. The time to adjust our daily systems and habits is now. We must respect our food, our land, our resources, and the people who grow it and prepare it for us. Through doing this, we can care for our health and the lives and livelihoods of others. We can all make a difference and contribute to meeting the FAO's targets to transform our agri-system towards reducing hunger, malnutrition, greenhouse gas emissions, while putting less pressure on our natural resource base and generating economic benefit for small farmers and businesses alike. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dermot, as well, for all of those things that we can actually do. And I started to write down, both when Leila was speaking and you were speaking, all of the solutions, and absolutely impossible. But the good thing is that this is recorded and you can find it on the website. So you can go back and scroll exactly to the post where it says, what am I supposed to do? I know what I'm supposed to do with my eggshells. I know I'm supposed to now respect my food and all of those steps. We're going to get a very wonderful gift, which is a demonstration from Chef Leila, so all of you stay back and you get to taste it, so that'll be very good. I'm now going to hand over to Lynette Newfield, who is going to close this session along with Ms. Delgado when she shows us the app that Maximo was talking to us about. So Lynette is the director of FAO's Food and Nutrition Division, and she's going to present the hashtag 123, or is it 123? 123, Food Loss and Waste Pledge for Climate Action.
Thanks, and thanks very much to those of you who have stayed. You've heard about the data, and you've heard the target of having food loss and waste. Doing so would help countries to achieve their nationally determined contributions, perhaps well beyond the commitments made in the Paris Agreement. Having food loss and waste would also help countries in their race to net zero and to align their actions towards the achievement of SDG target 12.3. The hashtag 123 pledge was launched in November 2022 at COP27 by the Food is Never Waste Coalition, one of the coalitions created in the UN Food Systems Summit process. The pledge seeks to mobilize new and existing commitments from governments, companies, institutions, entrepreneurs, and any other actor in the food system to take action to reduce food loss and waste towards that goal. The pledge is hosted by the Food is Never Waste Coalition, the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, the UNEP, Champions 12.3, and the COOL Coalition. It is supported by the World Resources Action Program and the Worldwide Fund for Nature and Rabobank. Pledges can be made across 5, not 3, action areas: policies and regulation, reductions along the food value chain, reductions at the national and subnational and/or city level, measurement and monitoring, awareness, education, and behavior change. You can see the details up on the screen behind me, and we invite all of you to make pledges towards those 5 action areas, towards the contribution towards reducing climate change and enabling better food system that can provide for the healthy diets that we all need. So please submit your pledges. You can see there the email addresses, and looking forward to continuing to chat shortly while we watch some excellent demonstrations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lynette, for that. It is good to have 2 additional actions, pledges that can be brought. So 5, 3, if there are many things that we can do, the more the better in this particular case. So here we'd like to bring our last presentation, which is something that Maximo brought up, which is the all-new FLOSS app. And it's presented to us by Luciana Delgado, who is Senior Research Analyst at the International Food Policy Research Institute, which many of you must know as IFPRI. So Ms. Delgado, I'll give you the floor, but before that, perhaps we're going to see a 1-minute video, I'm told, about the app. So now you had an overview of that. I'm going to hand over to Luciana. Please, over to you.
Okay, Excellencies, colleagues, it's a pleasure for me to present the FAO Food Losses app. So the FLAP has been developed based on research that has already been published and peer-reviewed. So 3 research papers and numerous technical reports underpin the development of this application, where we explore 4 different methodologies to determine the most efficient way to collect information on food losses. So the FLAP uses a methodology, which is the attribute-based methodology that Maximo mentioned, that better approximates the real measurement of losses across the production value chain, allowing us to collect information in a short period of time. So the FLAP is designed to capture through the attribute-based methodology both the quantity and the quality of losses, the associated value of these losses, as well as the reasons behind the losses reported by the farmers. So furthermore, the app, it offers solutions to the self-reported reasons of the losses. So on the screen, you can see the various interface screens that users will navigate to input these information into the app. So the app is also a dynamic app. So when the user chooses the country and the commodity, the app will update not only the geographical location, also the different stages of the post-harvest steps and the reasons behind the losses. And the attributes of the qualities. So once the farmers enter all the requirements information, the app will calculate both the quantity and the value of the losses. It will also provide insights into the emissions, nutrients, and natural resources use implications. And the FLAP will also identify the major issues reported by the farmers as reasons behind the losses, and it offers solutions through videos produced in collaboration with SABO, which is known for their scientific animation, videos, and cost-effective solutions. So this will empower the farmers to learn how to address the identified problems effectively. So finally, the FLAP is designed to increase access to information on losses for farmers, companies, producer associations, and cooperatives. So it will also support farmers identifying the major reasons for losses and provide solutions based on scientific evidence. So it will enable the crowdsourcing of information from farmers, enhancing FAO's ability to analyze where losses occur at the farmer level. So farmers will input their information confidentially and anonymously into the cloud, and this data collection approach leverages modern technology to facilitate the FAO's data gathering efforts across different commodities and countries. So currently, the app covers 10 countries and 7 commodities. However, we anticipate expansion, and we collect more information and respond to user demands, ultimately supporting the achievement of the SDG 12.3. So this is the link to the app. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luciana, for that. So we'll leave the QR code up for a little bit for those of you who are going to take the photo and share with your farmer friends and others. And I would like to take this opportunity really to thank everybody for being here, as this brings our session today to a close, but it's only the session that is closed. It is not the awareness, and it is not the work that we have to do to reach a no food loss and no food waste. I really think we're here seeing different ways to really move the needle closer to closing that gap of food loss and waste, and hopefully doing all that we can to really achieve a better life and achieve SDG 12.3 target. We have here at FAO 4 betters. I think everybody deserves at minimum 4 betters, if not more. We're talking about better production, better nutrition, better environment, and a better life for all, leaving no one behind. I think this is, and I hope this is just the beginning of us collectively working together for this. Thank you all for being here. We have a wonderful treat in the very well-named, I believe, area called the Tree of Life. We heard that food is life. We shouldn't waste it, and we should respect it. So Chef Leila Fathallah is going to give us a wonderful demonstration about how to use those things that Dermot was talking about in your fridge, those that he grows in his garden, that may not be the perfect fruit or may not be the perfect vegetable, but it's the perfect meal, and that's the most important. Thank you all for being here, and look forward to seeing you next year with progress to announce. Thank you.